Alright, in case you haven't seen any news lately somehow, and the title of this video doesn't already tell you everything you need to know, here's your warning. This video is going to mention the terms sexual assault and rape because I'd like to show you and discuss some articles and a couple of news clips about what happened to Brittany Higgins.
They didn't care about me. They cared about the party. We were just merely these weird little sort of side characters in what would become a narrative that they were concerned about. It wasn't about us. It wasn't about the incident at all.
There's a really beautiful picture of Brittany Higgins. It's actually on her first day at work at Parliament House, how excited she was to work in the building. So she ended up in the new Defence Minister Lyndall Reynolds' office when she was just 24 years old. She'd only been in that office for a matter of weeks when she went out to some office drinks with some people, including the man that she says sexually assaulted her. On the way home, he said that he needed to go past Parliament House, which she thought was a bit weird. It was very late on a Saturday night, and they ended up in the office that she worked in, the Defence Minister Lyndall Reynolds' office. And the next thing she remembers either going to the couch or laying down on the couch, and she woke up and this man was on top of her.
I told him to stop.
Did he?
No.
How many times would you estimate you said to him to stop?
I felt like it was like on a loop endlessly. At least half a dozen. I was crying the whole way through it. It's devastating and it's soul destroying, and I think about it every day, but the only thing that I know that made everyone else care about it
was where it happened.
Yeah, and who it was connected to.
When she turned up for work the next Monday, she saw the man who she says raped her. He didn't make eye contact with her. He didn't speak to her. He never made contact again with her after this incident.
It was very clear that this needed to be a secret. And that was for political reasons.
About a week after the sexual assault, she was called to a meeting in the Defence Minister Lyndall Reynolds' office with her Chief of Staff.
Lyndall Reynolds is right now in charge of all of Australia's military.
They chose to hold this meeting in the room that Brittany Higgins was sexually assaulted. So she says that she was raped in Lyndall Reynolds' private office on the couch, and that was the room that the Defence Minister chose to actually conduct this meeting.
I barely even remember the conversation on the basis that I was like, oh my God, it was the couch. I'm sure she was saying very many lovely words, but all I knew was the couch.
Politicians will say she should just go to police. But she really wasn't given a lot of support or reassurance that if she did that her job would be safe. And rightly or wrongly, she formed the view that she had to make a choice. She was terrified of being a political scandal on the eve of the election. And the way that it was handled, even though I think people at various points tried to be sympathetic, really reinforced to her that this was a political problem the Liberal Party needed to manage.
It wasn't for concern over me, and that was really impressed upon me. Like, this is a political issue, and this wasn't something to be shared.
I just want to say that my heart goes out to Brittany, and I'm very grateful for her bravery. It's brave for anyone to come forward with something like this, but considering the circumstances in which Brittany had to, and I'll have a link to the full interview on the project in the description box below if you feel up to watching it. Let's move on to the attempted apology from the Prime Minister.
Scott Morrison has apologised to the young woman who was allegedly raped inside Parliament House, but he admits it took his wife to convince him to do so. There are also serious questions tonight about how much the Prime Minister's own senior staff knew about the sickening assault and how much they did or didn't tell him.
Brittany Higgins was just 24 years old and working her dream job as a Liberal Party advisor when, as she told The Project last night, she was raped by a colleague in Parliament House.
I was pretty suicidal, to be honest, at the time. Because you're just alone. It's really hard.
Today, for the first time, the Prime Minister apologised to Brittany Higgins and tried to explain why it's taken till now.
Jenny and I spoke last night, and she said to me, You have to think about this as a father first. What would you want to happen if it were our girls? Jenny has a way of clarifying things, always has.
Shouldn't you have thought about it as a human being? And what happens if men don't have a wife and children? Do they reach the same compassionate conclusion?
Well, look, in my own experience, being a husband and a father is central to me, my human being. So I just can't follow the question you're putting.
You didn't think yesterday, as a leader of this country, that it was foreign? You had to take
I did,
the father?
and said so yesterday. In reflecting on what she said last night, I hadn't seen her account until it had occurred last night. I didn't get to see it because I had events and other things that I was dealing with till late last night.
Before a very helpful chat with Jenny. As for why it apparently took him 2 years to find out about the alleged rape.
I'm not happy about the fact that it was not brought to my attention, and I can assure you people know that.
But Brittany's boss, Defence Minister Linda Reynolds, did know, along with several other senior bureaucrats, including, according to the victim, the PM's right-hand man. Brittany says he called her last year to check in on her welfare ahead of Four Corners airing its explosive revelations about the treatment of women in Parliament.
That is not the recollection or the records of my staff on that matter. I understand that over time, particularly in situations like this, that information can become confused.
Ms Higgins has welcomed the PM's apology and investigation, but says it's long overdue.
Her bravery will encourage other people to come forward and it will encourage change.
Tegan George for 10 News First.
We're joined now by our national political editor, Peter Van Onselen. Peter, what did you make of Scott Morrison's apology to Brittany Higgins?
What did I make of the PM's apology? Well, I'm glad he spoke to his wife, because it sounds like perhaps if that hadn't happened, he may not have delivered that apology. I thought our reporter Tegan George absolutely hit the nail on the head with her question to him, which was, surely as a human being, yesterday you should have felt that way without needing to first speak to Jenny late last night. Where this goes now is interesting, though, because the Prime Minister in Question Time today said that his office didn't know anything about this until February, but the alleged victim has claimed that she spoke to his most senior aide and advisor about this last year when he checked in on her. So there's a conflict there about the account of what happened. If it is true that the Prime Minister's office knew about this, then there is a culture of not passing that information on to the PM, because he says he only found out about this the other day. That is a real cultural problem, and that is something that the Prime Minister really needs to look at as well.
There's plenty to play out in this story. Peter Van Onselen, thank you.
I just want to say that I'm also grateful that the reporter asked the question of, so you only came to this conclusion because you're a father, and how Peter Van Onselen also said he was glad that the Prime Minister spoke to Jenny, his wife. Did he really think that was going to go down well? Once this happened, Twitter went off with, oh, Jenny should explain a lot more things to him then. Even my tweet where I was like, shout out to my dad for understanding something's bad without imagining it happening to me. All right, let's continue. It only gets worse.
The federal government's handling of rape allegations inside Parliament House got even worse today. It's been exposed for quietly spreading stories about Brittany Higgins' current partner. Here's our political editor, Peter Van Onselen.
Brittany Higgins knew there would be repercussions when she went public with her story on the project.
This is a political issue. My job is on the line.
But she didn't expect her loved ones to be dragged through the mud. 10 News First can reveal that the Prime Minister's office attempted to brief journalists that Miss Higgins' partner, a former public servant, had an axe to grind against the government.
I will take those matters up with the Prime Minister. I am certain that he has no tolerance for such activities.
Talking to The Guardian, Ms Higgins said such behaviour speaks to the systematic problems of this place. It silences people, and I think it's gross. Yesterday she accused the PM of victim blaming. Today ministers were circling the wagons.
No, he's not.
There was no cover-up involved. Processes were followed.
Labor took up the issue in Question Time.
Does the Prime Minister still maintain that his office didn't know?
Well, Mr Speaker, I do stand by the statements.
The last thing I've sought to do, Mr
Members
Speaker,
on my left,
is to cause any further distress in this area.
This has been a week like no other here at Parliament House, certainly not like any that I've seen.
To say that cultural change must follow, that is an understatement. Prior to the last election, Scott Morrison spoke about the importance of sexual assault victims being believed. The words lost in the context of a disturbing week.
On rape.
It was dismissed.
And it's important that their stories are believed.
It was played down.
And one of the things that often happens with that is they're not believed, that they know that if they come forward, their stories will be believed.
It was made to feel like it was my problem.
That's a feeling Brittany Higgins never should have had to endure. Peter Van Onselen for 10 News First.
Okay, I have a lot to say about this. Something that really bothers me is this focus on whether the Prime Minister knew or not. I get it, it's important. My personal opinion, to me, I reckon he's lying. I reckon he knew. But besides that, I kind of would like a bit of focus on an investigation into the allegations. For the record, I completely believe Brittany, so that's why I'm even more concerned that there's a rapist that's allowed to just walk free, walk amongst the people, free to rape again, because he's done it before and got away with it. When was there incentive for him not to do it again? Have people forgotten what the fucking point of prisons are? I can't be the only person thinking this. Alright, and here's some other bits of information that I thought were important from different articles. Here's one from news.com.au. Scott Morrison image that made Brittany Higgins speak out about alleged rape. I was sick to my stomach, she said. He's standing next to a woman who has campaigned for Let Her Speak, and yet in my mind his government was complicit in silencing me. It was a betrayal. It was a lie. And this is the photo. It is of Scott Morrison and Australian of the Year sexual assault survivor Grace Tame. Alright, and I found this timeline of events that gives us some very important information, and I'll read through the whole thing for you. Timeline of Higgins incident and response, and this is from the 18th of February 2021. Friday, March 22nd, 2019, and early hours of Saturday, March 23rd. Male staffer of Defence Industry Minister Linda Reynolds and media advisor Brittany Higgins turn up at Parliament House. Miss Higgins appears heavily intoxicated. Security officer signs in the pair. It is speculated that at least one of them did not have a security pass. Security officers take the pair to the ministerial wing and unlocks minister's office doors at the male staffer's request. Security officers leave. Incident occurs. Male staffer leaves the office while Miss Higgins remains there. March 23rd, security officer checks on Miss Higgins's welfare very early morning. They find her disorientated and half naked in the office. Department of Parliamentary Services informed the Department of Finance, who administers Parliament House offices. 2 staffers have been found after hours in breach of rules. Discussions are held over whether the office should be cleaned before the return to work on Monday. Cleaners enter the office in the late afternoon at the request of the Department of Finance. It was described by DPS as a routine office clean. Miss Higgins is called into a meeting with Senator Reynolds, Chief of Staff, over a security breach. The male staffer is called into a separate meeting. March 27th, the DPS security provides a report to the Minister on the security breach. Miss Higgins meets with the police unit at Parliament House. Police find there is no criminality involved in the office clean, such as interfering with the crime scene, as there had been no disclosure of sexual assault on the day of the incident. April 1st, Miss Higgins meets with Senator Reynolds in the office where the incident occurs. The Minister makes it clear that Miss Higgins would have full support in whichever action she wanted to take. Alleged perpetrator is dismissed from Senator Reynolds' office over a security breach. Prime Minister Scott Morrison's Chief of Staff John Crunkle was part of the dismissal process but was unaware of rape allegations. Senator Reynolds says she sought advice on the dismissal from Ministerial and Parliamentary Services. April 4th, Senator Reynolds and her Chief of Staff meet with the AFP Assistant Commissioner to discuss what the AFP described as allegations of sexual assault. Miss Higgins is not present at the meeting. April 8th, Miss Higgins goes to Belcoen Police Station. Police say they are having trouble getting security camera footage from Parliament House. April 11th, federal election is called. April 13th, Miss Higgins tells police she won't continue with the complaint. April 29th, Miss Higgins is asked by AFP whether she is not continuing the complaint because she wants to protect the male staffer. June, post-election, Miss Higgins goes to work for Minister Michaelia Cash. A number of stories are published about the workplace culture in Parliament House. Senator Reynolds' former Chief of Staff Fiona Brown goes to work in the Prime Minister's office. April 18th, media inquiries lodged with Senator Reynolds' office about an AFP about the incident. October 19th, AFP contacts Ms Higgins about the possibility of the media inquiry being raised at a Senate estimate hearing on October 21st. The ACT Police Commissioner prepares notes to give to the AFP Commissioner Reece Kershaw briefing pack ahead of the hearing. Michaelia Cash contacts Ms Higgins to leave a voicemail saying, "Just remember, we're with you every step of the way." Senator Cash's Chief of Staff meets with Ms Higgins to say they will try and quash the media story. 2020, November 9th, Four Corners Canberra Bubble program goes to air, raising concerns about workplace culture problems in the coalition. Prime Minister's Principal Private Secretary Finkelstein checks in with Ms Higgins. Prime Minister disputes this. November 12th, Public Sector Union writes to the Finance Department, which responds 4 days later agreeing to a culture and workplace policy review. 2021, January, Senator Cash seeks to encourage Ms Higgins to stay on staff, offering a relocation to Queensland, but she declines. February 5th, Ms Higgins resigns from Senator Cash's office, citing ongoing trauma over the March 2019 incident. February 12th, Mr Morrison is made aware of the event. February 15th, Ms Higgins tells her story publicly to news.com.au and the Project. She says she has plans to take the matter up with police. February 16th, Mr Morrison offers apology in Parliament, as does Senator Reynolds. 2 reviews are launched, one by Liberal MP Celia Hammond to work on improving behaviour within coalition ranks, a second by Stephanie Foster, the Department of Secretary for Department of the Prime Minister's and Cabinet, to advise on how to improve formal support processes. Okay, what I really want to talk about, we need to go back quite a while to March 2019 and hear where it says, "Police find there is no criminality involved in the office clean, such as interfering with a crime scene, as there had been no disclosure of sexual assault on the day of the incident." And that was said on March 27th. And if we go up a bit more, cleaners entered the office in the late afternoon at the request of the Department of Finance. Discussions are held over whether the office should be cleaned before the return to work on Monday. So they're trying to tell us that security guards find a half-naked woman in an office. They have a discussion on whether it should be cleaned. And because she didn't come forward in a matter of hours, it was completely fine to clean that office. Can you see the problem here? Especially how it said they had a discussion on whether the office should be cleaned, and they also say it's a routine clean. I'd love to see what other offices were cleaned that same day, because I believe it would be a routine thing, so that would mean the discussion is about whether they should prevent the cleaning. And if the cleaning wasn't a routine cleaning day, then the discussion seems like it would be about whether they should get cleaners in. But either way, because the victim didn't come forward within a matter of hours, having cleaners clean the crime scene is fine apparently. Alright, now I've got just a couple more comments. These ones are about how the Prime Minister handled everything. Gotta mention again that I'm quite glad that many people were disturbed with the Prime Minister's response. This article is one example out of many. From SBS, Scott Morrison criticised for invoking his daughters in response to Brittany Higgins' rape allegations. Mr Morrison said the announcement of a review into workplace culture at Parliament House was prompted by a discussion with his wife. Alright, and I have one more article from The Guardian which raises some important points. It's gross. Brittany Higgins says if Scott Morrison's office is briefing against her, it must stop. Former Liberal staffer who says she was raped in Parliament has allegedly had loved ones become subject of negative briefings by Prime Minister's department. And this is from the 18th of February 21. Brittany Higgins, the former Liberal staffer who alleges she was raped by a more senior colleague on a couch in Parliament House in 2019, says if there are unofficial government briefings going on against her her or her loved ones, it needs to stop. The assault allegations and Higgins' belief that in the aftermath she was made to feel like lodging a police complaint could end her career in political staffing has generated an ongoing political storm. The former Liberal staffer told Guardian Australia on Thursday she understood that telling would have consequences. I knew personally that when I decided to put my name and face to this, there would be repercussions for me, Higgins said, but I think it's unfair that they are starting to try and take this out on loved ones. I think it speaks to the systematic problems of this place. It silenced people and I think it's gross. Higgins spoke to Guardian Australia in the wake of the comments on Thursday morning by Network 10's political editor Peter Van Olsen, alleging the Prime Minister's office was deliberately backgrounding journalists to smear Higgins' now partner. This backgrounding, Van Olsen said, was designed to suggest Higgins' partner held a gripe against the government due to his experience as a former public servant. Now, I've got the audio of what Peter Van Olsen said, and I want to play you a bit of it, and then I want to talk about it.
But the internals are just shocking, Fran. I can let your listeners know that the Prime Minister's office has been backgrounding that her partner, her now partner, has a vendetta or a gripe, might be the better way to put it, against the government because of him being a former public servant. Now, that might not technically be victim blaming, but I tell you what, it is grubby.
Alright, I need to know how many other people had the first thought of the reason they would try to do this to her now partner is to try to play into she's making it up. That was my first impression. But then you hear more of what Peter Van Olsen says. I'll play you a bit more.
Here's the humanity. The thought that behind the scenes what happens is there is an attempt to muddy the waters and to throw political mud and go on the political offensive against her partner to try to, if you like, undermine the power of how she feels, rightly or wrongly, about the way that the Prime Minister has acted. The fact that that is getting backgrounded is just extraordinary to me. I'm shocked.
Alright, first of all, I have no reason to believe that Peter would lie to us about these briefings from the Prime Minister's office about Brittany's partner. Sounds like something they would do. Now, this may seem like something minor, but I do want to talk through how I reckon it doesn't make sense, especially with Peter Van Olsen's understanding of it. I'm even going to talk through how it feels what I first expected. That still doesn't make too much sense. But yeah, I think I have to do a deep dive into this, mainly because I really do believe that this is something the Prime Minister's office would do. Now, if we view all this as two issues, one being the actual rape and the other one being how it was handled by people in Parliament House. Now, if they were backgrounding journalists to try and smear Brittany's partner, with the smear job being intended to mess with the issue of how Parliament dealt with it, how the Prime Minister handled everything, especially recently, let's play that smear through. Her boyfriend has beef, and so that's the real reason why she went public with something awful that happened to her in Parliament House. See, that is some sort of stupid, and that's partly why I believe that would be their game plan. Now let's just do the other issue as well since we're here, because I did first assume that they were going to try and say that because her current boyfriend has beef with the government, that's why she said she was raped in the first place, and that makes even less sense. Alright, and we're going to finish off this Guardian article because it has another important point at the end of it. Guardian Australia has received no negative backgrounding from the Prime Minister's office about Higgins or her associates. When asked to respond to Van Olsen's comments, the Prime Minister's office declined to comment. In a public statement issued after question time on Wednesday, Higgins accused the Prime Minister of deploying victim-blaming rhetoric, which is personally very distressing to me and countless other survivors of sexual assault. Higgins' escalating distress comes as her former boss, Defence Minister Linda Reynolds, has refused to answer further questions about the termination arrangements that applied to the staff member who is alleged to have assaulted Higgins in March 2019. The man left Reynolds' office in March 2019, later went to work for a Sydney-based public relations and registered lobbyist firm. Reynolds has said the man's employment was terminated, but is not answering questions about whether that means he was sacked or allowed to resign, or whether he was awarded a termination payout or redundancy. Reynolds has insisted she has not provided him with a reference for his post-politics work, but she did not answer a question about whether her senior staff did. If the staffer was sacked, Reynolds would have had the option of withholding the termination payout on the grounds of serious misconduct. Reynolds' office said it cannot discuss the matter because doing so would breach the ex-staffer's privacy. To protect the privacy of this individual, it is not appropriate to provide any further details relating to their employment or their termination of their employment in the office, a spokesperson said. With Reynolds under intense pressure and with the Prime Minister fielding precedent questions about his knowledge of the allegations and the knowledge of his staff, Morrison has agreed to assess complaints about a toxic work culture in staffing through an arm's-length review. On Wednesday night, Morris sought bipartisan backing for that endeavour. The Prime Minister said he was seeking a consensus position to achieve better practices. I obviously have to comment on this. First of all, what the fuck do you mean you need to protect the privacy of this individual? Go fuck yourself. I call bullshit. Linda, that is absolute bullshit. If you didn't give him a payout, you would have just said, no, he didn't receive any money when he left. But you're not, are you? And telling us whether or not he received some sort of redundancy payment or not would not breach their fucking privacy. That's a simple yes or no fucking answer right there. Don't need to tell us who he is. Just tell us if you gave him money when he fucking left. So I'm just going to assume that not only does the Federal Parliament House of Australia enable rapists to walk free with absolutely no repercussions to them, all the repercussions are saved for the victim, and the rapists get to walk free, probably with a large sum of money. Fuck right off. What do you fucking mean when they say they can't tell us whether a rapist was given a redundancy payment because it will breach their privacy? What that means is, yes, they gave him that redundancy payment and they know how bad it will look if they say yes to that. This is so fucking gross. People better end up in prison and fucking lose their jobs because of this. Fuck right off.